Donald Trump appears to believe he can manipulate House Speaker Mike Johnson into burying the truth about the Epstein scandal, but he's deluding himself. Johnson might try to stall investigations, bury evidence, and twist congressional procedures to protect Trump and his allies, but his reach only goes so far. The files tied to Jeffrey Epstein's network may be under the thumb of Trump, loyal Republicans desperate to keep the public distracted, yet they can't silence what's outside Congress's control. So the Epstein estate remains a ticking time bomb of evidence, already responsible for releasing Epstein's infamous birthday book, a document that shredded Trump's false claims that he had and Epstein were never close. But before we continue, guys, with this story, please drop a like and subscribe if you're part of the growing wave that refuses to stay silent. Every click helps this truth reach the people who want to hear it. Now, the new lawsuit threatens to expose Trump even more. Damning details are going to come out of this, and this time Trump has no power to stop it. The walls are actually closing in, and no amount of political manipulation can contain the fallout. Before diving deeper into the explosive revelations surrounding this lawsuit, it's actually crucial to look at what's being concealed beyond Capitol Hill, inside the Epstein estate itself, and to consider what journalist Michael Wolff has revealed about Trump's disturbing connections to it.
Polaroid, that's in my, as I say, in my mind, these are Polaroids, but they certainly are snapshots. And then he kind of like a deck of cards, kind of displayed them on the table. And there were specifically three that I remember, and this is now almost 10 years ago. So, but the three that I remember are two in which topless young women, and I don't know the ages of these women, but they are young, are sitting in Trump's lap. And this is outside Jeffrey Epstein's house in Palm Beach, around the swimming pool.
Okay, and is Trump dressed? Is he what?
Trump is dressed, and in mind's eye, it's kind of golfy,
right? Golf leisure wear
attire, but right. And then in the third picture, there is, and so he's wearing light pants. There is or tannish pants. And there's a stain on the front of his trousers.
There's a mountain of evidence, photos, documents, recordings, videos locked away within the Epstein estate and hoarded by Epstein's powerful associates across the country. This isn't information Congress necessarily has access to, and that's exactly the point. It's material being buried, withheld and whitewashed, hidden behind the actions of Trump loyalists like Pam Bondi, buried by figures like Kash Patel, and shielded from accountability like Mike Johnson, who refuses to even allow a vote that could bring any of this to light. Now, in doing so, they're effectively undermining democracy itself, bending the system to protect Donald Trump and a circle of deeply corrupt individuals, guys. Some accused of abhorrent crimes, who financed and enabled his actual rise. Right now, this web of enablers is working overtime to keep the truth buried, because they know that once a single thread unravels, the entire cover-up just collapses. Any release of information could trigger a chain reaction that exposes not just Trump's lies, but the moral rot at the heart of the political machine. And Trump, he's desperate to save himself. He's willing to destroy whatever stands in his way to keep that from happening. And as Representative Eric Swalwell had pointed out, the lengths Trump and his allies are going to hide this scandal should alarm every American who still believes in accountability and justice.
Shut down. Mike Johnson has shut down the Congress for almost 30 days because he doesn't want to find out how close Donald Trump is to Jeffrey Epstein, the largest, the biggest, the most notorious child sex trafficker America has ever known. And so who is paying the price? And I just want to give you an example. In my district yesterday, I was talking to a federal worker, and he was surprised to see me home. And he said, wait, why aren't you guys in Washington? Because in the last 3 shutdowns in the last 13 years, we've always been in Washington to find our way out. You're in a pressure cooker. That's how deals happen. The press are there to hold us accountable, and they're asking questions. So he was quite alarmed to learn that this is entirely about protecting Donald Trump.
When we look at the reasons behind the government shutdown, it becomes crystal clear that Donald Trump's motives have nothing to do with fiscal responsibility and everything to do with power and control. His administration is actively trying to strip millions of Americans of their health care, while extremists like, Stephen Miller and Russ Vought see this crisis as a convenient excuse to gut the federal workforce and reshape how the public perceives government itself. Trump wants Americans to believe that public institutions are corrupt or just useless, that everything should just instead serve his wealthy friends and corporate backers. His goals is to dismantle public goods and hand them over to billionaires like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, who can then just sell them back to us at a premium, of course. It's about erasing public ownership and replacing it with profit, making ordinary citizens dependent on the ultra-rich for what should belong to them by right. But there's another motive lurking beneath the chaos, guys. The Epstein scandal. Trump knows that keeping the government in disarray makes it easier to bury any effort to expose the truth about Epstein's connections to him and his allies. Now, while Congress can stall and hide documents, the real danger for Trump comes when those outside Washington, the associates, lawyers and enablers tied to Epstein, who hold damning information. If any of that evidence comes to light, it could unleash a chain reaction that would make Trump's cover-up impossible to maintain. That's why this new lawsuit connected to the Epstein estate poses such a severe threat. It has the potential to detonate the entire web of deceit that Trump and his inner circle have fought desperately to keep hidden. Lawsuits could finally expose Jeffrey Epstein's network as Congress continues stalling. Legal experts say that the new lawsuits could reveal late financier Jeffrey Epstein's ties to banks and avoid the embarrassing partisan gamesmanship, blocking justice for survivors and accomplish what lawmakers had failed to do. 2 new lawsuits filed against Bank of America and the Bank of New York Mellon by anonymous plaintiff alleged that the financial institutions illicitly enabled Epstein's sex trafficking, The Guardian reports Monday. The suits are led by Sigrid S. Macaulay of Bose Schiller Flexner and Brad Edwards of Edwards Henderson, both longtime representatives of Epstein victims. Despite the outcome of the suits, Edwards asserts that the litigation could discourage future trafficking. The lawsuits are necessary for complete justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, as well as for future would-be victims who will suffer from similar traffic organizations if our financial institutions are not held accountable for the essential role each plays, either in providing the necessary infrastructure for the illegal operation or recognizing the financial component of these crimes and putting an end to it, Edwards said in a statement. We have a far better chance of making a real difference than Congress because we know the facts and history of the case and are not motivated by politics but rather by a genuine desire to make real difference and to protect the survivors who have already suffered tremendously, he added. The legal move could shed more light on secrets behind Epstein and other wealthy individuals' actions. We approach these matters without any political agenda and thus cannot be deterred by shutdowns, protecting wealthy, politically connected individuals, or the other embarrassing partisan gamesmanship you and the rest of the world have had to watch unfold recently. Bank of America and BNY have denied the claims. This latest legal move couldn't be more significant, not only because it seeks long overdue justice for the victims and survivors of Epstein's horrific crimes, but because it strikes at the very heart of the network that enabled him. Now, the financial institutions that profited from the protected Epstein's operations are sitting on a goldmine of evidence, records, transfers and communications that could finally expose how deep and wide this criminal web extends. Yet Trump's allies like Kash Patel just continue to push the absurd lie that Epstein acted alone, conveniently ignoring figures like Ghislaine Maxwell. Somehow Trump has hinted he'd consider pardoning. Absolutely abhorrent. What these banks and the Justice Department are hiding could blow this entire cover-up wide open. We already know millions of dollars moved between Epstein and his associates, but the public has been kept in the dark. NBC News, for example, has been blocked by the DOJ from learning the names of the two individuals who received massive payments from Epstein. Where were they being paid for the silence, for complicity, for protecting the powerful? We don't know yet, but we could. And that's exactly what Trump fears the most. Now, this isn't just about what's in a few files or videos locked up by Congress. It's about the vast paper trail that could finally reveal the full scale of exploitation and corruption connecting Epstein's operation to Trump's inner circle. Trump's panic isn't just about self-preservation. It's about shielding the entire elite network that helped him rise and could easily take him down. Because once names are made public, once survivors start telling the stories, the narrative just collapses. We could see hundreds and even thousands of witnesses just come forward to expose what Trump and his cronies have fought so hard to bury. The truth is, guys, Trump's ties to Epstein weren't some casual acquaintance. They were long-lasting, intimate and deeply incriminating. Every new document, every bank record, every leaked communication brings us closer to understanding just how intertwined Trump was with Epstein's crimes. Now, that's why he's so desperate to keep new names from surfacing, because each one is another person who can testify to what he really did and who he really is. It's no wonder Trump was shaken when Epstein's birthday book became public. It shattered one of his most repeated lies. And now lawsuits, subpoenas and court orders, things even Mike Johnson can't block, and are threatening to do the same on a much larger scale. And that's why this lawsuit has the Trump camp in full-blown panic mode. It's a legal bombshell that could just devastate that what's left of the political image and drag countless enablers down with him. As Representative Eric Swalwell said, he continues to emphasize this point, that it just isn't bad news for Trump. It's potentially catastrophic for the entire network that's been protecting him.
People are hurting. And they know that Republicans run the White House, the Senate, and the House. They could open up the Congress and have us negotiate, but they won't do it for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, they know the second they do it, they have to vote on releasing the Epstein files, which means admitting just how close Donald Trump is to the most notorious child sex trafficker. So Mike Johnson right now stands as a pedophile protector. That's what he's doing by protecting Jeffrey Epstein's legacy and history from becoming more public. But second, Jonathan, as we approach open enrollment, where most Americans find out what their health insurance premiums are going to cost every month, Republicans refuse to put back in place subsidies that make sure low income and middle class Americans can afford health insurance. And if you're not a low income or middle class American, Jonathan, you're still affected, because the way health insurance works is the more people who are insured, the less that we all pay. So Republicans don't want to work, have closed down Congress, have closed down the federal government, aren't paying federal workers, and most Americans are going to pay more next year when it comes to the health insurance premium.
Well, I mean, you can't get those Epstein files released that you were talking about earlier until you get 218 votes. And that can't happen because of the inability of the House Speaker to swear in Adelita Grijalva. Let me get your reaction to what Speaker Johnson said earlier today about why he's not swearing in the Congresswoman-elect.
I will administer the oath to her, I hope on the first day we come back, legislative session. I'm willing and anxious to do that. In the meantime, instead of doing TikTok videos, she should be serving her constituents. She could be taking their calls. She can be directing them, trying to help them through the crisis that the Democrats have created by shutting down the government.
I'm sorry.
No, dumb. She doesn't have constituents. She's not a member of Congress. She doesn't have a budget to help anybody. Again, he has a new answer for this every single time he is asked, but the motive remains the same. He is a pedophile protector. He is protecting Jeffrey Epstein, and he's protecting Donald Trump from all of us learning just how close Trump is to Epstein.
We already know what Trump and his enablers are hiding, guys, and the only way to find back is through relentless persistence and truth-telling. Trump's entire strategy right now revolves around just distraction, throwing chaos, outrage and misinformation at the public in hopes that we'll just stop paying any attention to the scandals closing in around him. He's desperate to shift focus away from the Epstein revelations, from the lawsuits, from the corruption that keeps circling back to him, his name, but we can't afford to fall for it. So as always, guys, make sure you please hit that subscribe button, comment on what you think, and drop a like on this video. If you've made it all the way to the end, please leave a blue heart in the comments to show you're standing strong and refusing to be silenced. Keep questioning, stay connected, and I'll see you on the next one.